Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Welcome back, welcome back. So today, we're actually going to do something kind of big over here in the industrial area. The industrial area is about to go through a bit of a rebrand because I like some of the stuff I built around here. I really want to expand on this theme that I've got going on with stuff like the Iron Tower and the Villager Trading Hall and the storage buildings that we have over here. This place has always been a bit messy because of the amount of redstone testing stuff I do over here, the amount of farms that I demonstrate in a theoretical standpoint, but I don't necessarily want to be permanent. I actually want to turn this place into something a little bit more permanent, and it's going to focus around these guys, the villagers, because as you guys will know, Founders Forge, my pride and joy over here, the town that I am working on building, looks a little bit empty, and I constantly get people asking me, why aren't you putting villagers in Founders Forge? The main answer to that being raids. I'm not a big fan of the way raids work, the fact that if you come into a town with a bad omen effect, or if a pillager raid, or a pillager patrol rather, spawns around here, you kill the captain, you get the bad omen effect instantly. I don't want raids to happen in this part of town, not least because if Ravagers spawn, they can destroy stuff like leaves, and I'm putting a lot of leaves around these buildings, which means I would basically have to go and, you know, build a bunch more bushes every time I wanted to reset the town after a raid. It's not possible once the raid starts to get rid of the raid effect with a bucket of milk or anything like that, so anytime I came through that portal with Bad Omen, I just wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So having villagers around here seems like a poor idea. However, I've had villagers over here in the industrial area from quite early in this series, and I really feel like I want to make a little villager-themed town. And one of the reasons I'm so keen on this right now is having a proper villager breeder installed around here. Villager breeders have changed a lot, and this section here is really not what we need anymore. We've got a lot of villagers left over in it, which is great because I will need a few villagers to start a villager breeder here in the first place. But in the process of that, I also want to redevelop this whole area and start building more stuff like the buildings that we have over here and like these little towers and stuff, and work with a little bit more of an established build style, kind of like what we're doing in Founders Forge, but an extension of that. These villagers are jumping for joy because they know they're actually going to get some stuff done today. We are going to basically take down a bunch of stuff in this area to start off with, and then we're going to turn part of the area into a large-scale villager breeder based on a design by Impulse SV that was published fairly recently, and a tutorial that I know works for a fact in Minecraft 1.14.4, which is the version we're playing in right now. And this is going to mean tearing out some stuff that we've had here for a little while. I kind of want to get rid of the cobblestone generator because I've never really used this thing to mass produce cobblestone. It was mostly there as a demonstration. Likewise, the cocoa bean farm is something that we can make pretty much anywhere. I think we will try our best to leave the record farm here just because moving that skeleton would be a bit of a pain. But there are certainly a lot of things around here that we can get rid of. And we also have up here in this little box 3 villagers who I saved from our first test of the new Iron Golem farming mechanics in 1.14.3. We have our 3 farmers in there, all of whom have forgotten that they were farmers and reverted back to unemployed villagers because they were taken away from their workstations and I hadn't done any trading with them, so those trades weren't locked in. That's actually going to be kind of perfect for what we want to do today. We got a Tnt Tree Farm over here, which was not particularly successful. I used it a couple of times, but I could really do a lot better. It just ate bone meal and the TNT wasn't used particularly efficiently. So a lot of this stuff I can probably just take down and be done with it. I think what I want to do is start a villager breeder up here in the mountains, though, which is going to present a couple of interesting, unique problems, but ones that I think we will be able to resolve with the villager breeder design. The main reason being that you need to breed villagers quite far away from where you expect the overall village population to end up, because it all depends on their proximity to beds, and we need to keep the villagers away from the breeder, because in order to breed villagers infinitely, we need to make sure that no villagers will end up claiming the beds in the breeder, which means evacuating them from that area as quickly as possible and bringing them down into an area over here. So I think we're going to move a bunch of this stuff to start off with today. I think we're going to take down a bunch of these old farms. I'm going to do all of that off camera, so I'll be back with you guys in just a few seconds' time. Hey folks, welcome back. And look at this. Look at this green and pleasant land that we have over here. Me and the llama are up here watching this place from the hilltop, and it's looking a lot nicer down here now that we have some rolling greenery. And over there in the middle, we do still have that little section where the 3 former farmers are hanging out, and we're probably going to put some of those to work today in the villager breeder. Now, we are going to be building the villager breeder on top of this mountain hilltop kind of thing over here, and then letting the villagers trickle down into what's eventually going to be the town. But of course, we need to make sure that the beds for the villagers are going to be a little bit further away, and we're probably going to be building a larger villager breeder and carrot farm around the outside of this, but we're going to start off with one module of that today. Part of the reason I really want to do this is so that we can have a good population of villagers to refill the trading hall, and also so that we can fix the iron farm, which has been broken for a little while and needs a couple of adjustments being made to it, which I can probably do in a future video this week. But we're going to start off by heading down here, and we're going to put together the foundations of the breeder. Now, this design has been made available as a tutorial by Impulse SV, who says he put it together based on elements that were designed by Logical Geek Boy and Rayzworks. So links to all of their channels and Impulse's video will be in the description. For now, I think we'll probably start it up here. And oh look, there's a llama that we may have seen in a previous video. I think, yeah, maybe starting it a little further up will be a good idea. The thing about making a crop farm out here is that the farmland will have to be hydrated, and unfortunately, at this height, water freezes. However, luckily, this farm has a couple of ways of avoiding that. Primarily, the use of waterlogged blocks. As you might know, if you place a slab or some stairs in a water source, or if you place the slab or stairs first and then you add the water source to that, then you end up with a water source that cannot freeze over because it's already part of a block, and Minecraft doesn't like applying a whole block to a half block like that. Like, it won't let the two merge, and so therefore the water will stay unfrozen, and that will allow us to have the crops stay hydrated without any of the farmland freezing over. We are going to have to put some slabs or something down over the top of the farm, both to prevent snow from falling on it if we don't want it to be covered in snow, and also to prevent lightning from striking it so the villagers turn into witches. But for now, I think the top of the mountain here will be a good place to start. Already got some dirt laid here already, so the foundations have already been made, but we're going to have to measure this kind of precisely. So let's start off by figuring out where exactly we want our center block to be. I think it's going to be about here, because we're going to have to come out 9 blocks in each direction. So let's count those out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is where we're going to put a kind of T shape to mark out the edge of the farm on this boundary, and then on the other sides we're going to do that so we have those facing in all of the cardinal directions. So I'm going to mark these out with slabs just so you know exactly where the edges of this are, because we're building this in a pre-existing piece of terrain. But we've got these on each of the sides, and the next step is to sort out the diagonals between them so that we can work out the dimensions of our platform. The diagonal here has already been started, but we need to come out in this direction like so. We can create a quick diagonal path here, and that should line up, there we go, on a diagonal with the end of this piece here. And then we can fill in all of the dirt around here, and this is all going to be turned into farmland. There's a really neat way that you can arrange the water sources that will actually mean all of this area manages to stay hydrated, with just 1 water source in the middle and then 2 next to each of these sides. So on each of these sides, we're going to connect up those diagonals and fill in all of the land until what you end up with is something like this, kind of a diamond pattern with some flattened edges on each of the sides. We can remove these slabs now. I just needed those to mark out exactly where the ends of each of these were going to be. Now, to be sustainable, farmland needs 2 things. It needs hydration, so it doesn't revert back into dirt if no crops are planted there, and it also needs light. Most of the time you can have crops planted without light nearby as long as they've got sky access, but if we want to put a roof over the top of this thing, we will need to have some kind of artificial light here. So we're going to start off by placing some light around the outside. I'm going to be using sea lantern blocks for this, and we want one of those on each side of this last row of 3 blocks, this kind of flat area here, and then we want to leave a gap, and then we want one more there. In each of these sections, we're actually going to be putting water sources in just a second, but first of all, it will help to get all of the lighting figured out. And on these middle 2 blocks here, we can have some sort of building block. I'm actually going to build up with logs here just to make it look like this whole thing is supported, because it's going to be, there's otherwise this weird flat structure on top of the mountain here. But I'm just going to build up around those. Those 2 middle blocks can be occupied by basically anything as long as it's a solid block. In order to make sure all of this land stays hydrated, we're going to be waterlogging stairs around the outsides here, and that's what's going to go in each one of these spaces that we've left in between the sea lanterns. So this should be the last little addition we need to make to this outside row of blocks before we build walls up around it. Each of these stair blocks is going to be waterlogged using a bucket of water, but of course the water will flow out over the sides like this, and that's going to present a little bit of a problem here unless we put a trapdoor on the side which will contain the water and actually makes the farm look pretty sweet at the same time. With each of these stair blocks waterlogged and with a trapdoor on the sides, the last thing we need to waterlog is the slab that we placed in the middle here as our center block, and we're going to be placing a composter over the top of that, and that's going to be the workstation for the farmer who's going to be in here working the land. Unfortunately, this sheep is going to have to go. So we're going to grab some carrots from the storage system here. We're going to reach into this shulker box to get the Unbreaking 3 Mending Diamond Hoe that you guys made me make all those episodes ago. And we're going to head up here and turn this whole thing into a carrot patch. You can also use potatoes for this because they are also villager food. They're the kind of food that the villagers like to have in their inventories when they want to breed, and farmers will be able to harvest them all. This sheep is going to have to get off the mountain, and there we go. Once we start hoeing out this area, we should also see all of the farmland hydrating successfully. You might want to check where your water sources are if you see any of it drying up again, but this entire area should be covered by the water sources we've placed here, which is pretty economical use of water actually. Now, you do not need to fill up this area with carrots as long as you have a few planted, because once these grow fully, the villager who's in here will actually harvest and replant the carrots in this area until the whole thing is filled up. But if you want to give them a helping hand and you want to get things started, you can always bone meal them. And remember, once you've got the whole thing grown, once the carrots are fully grown and ready to be harvested, if you use a Fortune 3 tool, you will not end up reducing the durability of that tool, but you will get more than the average yield of that crop. So it's always a good idea to keep a fortune tool in mind if you want a bunch of carrots around here in a hurry. And just bone mealing and fortuning that small patch of carrots gave me enough to fill up nearly 2/3 of the farm, which is not bad going. So one more round of that and we should have more than enough carrots to get us started. There we go, the whole field is filled. I've got a stack and 10 carrots left, which is pretty good going. We can give some of those to the farmer and the breeder villagers to get them started on their various processes. But before we do all of that, we do need to make sure that this entire farm is completely surrounded by a 2-high glass wall, both to keep the villagers in and to keep the zombies out. I might even add a couple more sea lanterns to each end here, just to make sure this place stays pretty well lit. The one end where I'm going to make an exception to that is going to be this end over here, because that's the one that's furthest away from the area I want the villagers to go, so it's going to be the furthest away for our beds to go. So we're going to put a bunch of beds over here. We'll need 4 of those, and a fence post for the villagers to stand on, and the idea is that the breeder villagers are going to be over here producing baby villagers whenever a farmer in this field throws carrots down to them. Not only that, but they will be thrown more carrots than they actually need, and we'll be able to place a hopper down here and have this double as a carrot farm. Now, directly below this area that we've left open over here, we're going to be placing some placeholder blocks just so that we can put the beds down here, and then we're going to have to dig out an area around this to make sure that the villagers can't escape onto any of the other blocks, and so they always end up in the center of this ring here. And the last one can go there. Yep, okay, we can place that. Now, we need to place a fence post in the middle of this ring of blocks, and then we need to remove the blocks and a few others to make sure that they have only one space they can stand, and that's on a fence post here. Once we built these glass walls up to 2 blocks high, we can remove this block here and this block here, because we don't need those. Those are also going to prevent the villagers from getting in the beds, so it'd be a bad idea to keep them there. And in the center here, we want these 4 trap doors to go around the villagers who are going to be standing on this block here, and that's going to prevent them from getting out of here and traveling any further, but it's going to allow the villager in the farm to be able to see them. So eventually, when we bring our villagers over here, we want them inside of this little trapdoor section here, and that's going to keep them nice and contained and keep them in there breeding when we want them to. Now, the other places we want a trapdoor are going to be at the top of this block here, and we also want one there, and there. And those 3 are not going to be strictly necessary right now, but the plan eventually is to build another 3 of these around the outside here so that you have 4 times the crop farming space, and that crop farm could be used for carrots all the way around, or it could be half carrots and half potatoes. The choice is yours, really. It depends what you want the most crops of, but remember, carrots and potatoes can both be traded with farmer villagers, so if you're having them farmed for you automatically, that's going to be a pretty ideal setup for trading in the foreseeable future. Once we've got all of this stuff in place, the next step is going to be digging out a decent size area around the outside of here. Mainly, we just want to make sure that there are no valid blocks for the villagers to step out of the beds and down onto. So I'm going to go as cautious as I can be, really, and go with a 5x5 or maybe even a 7x7 square centered on this fence post here, and make sure to make it at least 3 blocks deep. We'll probably go 4 just to make sure that we've got enough room down here. Uh-oh. It's a good thing we don't have some villagers up here already, because I feel like I'm being held at crossbow point at this stage. Luckily for me, these guys don't seem all that interested in coming any closer, so I'm just going to do my usual thing and despawn them by flying away super far. But if nothing else, we should probably take that as a sign that these villagers will need protecting from more than just zombies, and it's probably a good idea to create a glass wall or a larger perimeter wall around the outside of the villager breeder to make sure pillagers don't spawn in there. Obviously, lighting the area up is supposed to help protect from pillagers, but you really can't take any chances with this update now. Directly underneath the fence post here, we're going to be placing a hopper that's going to output into this chest, and that's where all of the excess food is going to be collected. So if you want to use this as a crop farm, it's all going to end up down there. That's also where we're going to have the baby villagers drop when they are born. So we're going to make a kind of glass tank around the outside of this, noting that we can probably set up a water stream inside of here to, for a start, make sure that the baby villagers don't take any damage when they drop down here, but also to move them away from these beds and away from the farm so they don't end up claiming these beds, and so the villagers on top of that fence post can continue to breed infinitely. But we want to remove the top blocks of this glass tank here and put slabs all the way around the outside so that when the baby villagers are born, they don't end up moving onto these blocks on the sides, but then those slabs also aren't valid blocks for the villagers to get out of bed and stand on. So that should now be all set up, and we just need to add the composter to the center of the farm, and that should be all good to go. Composter in the center of the farm, that's remained waterlogged there, and we'll want a light source on top of that as well to make sure that all of the crops in here stay lit even when we put the roof on, and that farm is ready to go. All we should need to grab is a couple of villagers. We will need 2 villagers to stand in here for us as well, and the farmer in here should throw the carrots out to this villager, and then they can do their thing. Just to make doubly sure that the zombies can't hop in here and get them, though, I am going to install a glass wall around the outside of this villager breeding setup here. Hopefully that should be far enough away and tall enough that villagers won't be able to step out of these beds and onto those blocks, and they should remain inside of here. So without further ado, let's go and grab ourselves some villagers. For this little villager escapade, I'm going to return to these 3 guys trapped here from the old iron golem experiment. We are going to grab those with minecart rails once we've removed them from the boats, which we'll do in a little bit. But first, of course, we've got to build a giant powered minecart rail that's going to go all the way up this mountain to the breeder. One of them is going to be the farmer, who's going to collect all of the crops for us, and the other 2 are going to be stuck in the cell doing their breeding thing. So let's see if they take the bait. Oh, looks like they are just taking the boat. Looks like that guy decided to get in the boat with his friend. Let's see if we can work out where the hitbox is, and bam, there we go. That's 2 of them out of the boats now. Hopefully they'll be able to get in the minecarts, and if not, we might just have to give them a nudge in the right direction. This could be a problem. I've created the infinite whirling dervish. Looks like we'll have to try and hit the boat. Oh, we got it. Yes, okay. The boat is gone. Now, only one of those villagers remains in the minecart, and I think we may have created a perpetual motion machine. There we go. We've got all 3 of them now. What on earth is this? This weird villager roundabout of chaos. Let's break one of those rails, get them up onto the powered rail. I can't believe that went that well. That's so bizarre. Anyway, redstone block away. There you go. And that guy is now going to be headed off towards the farm, where hopefully we should be able to catch up with him with my elytra, if I can actually take off. Yep, there we go. He is headed straight for the farm. This guy is going to be our farmer, and he should make it straight up over there. Boom, perfect landing. And he's already decided to be a farmer. Fantastic. Let's close off that log there, and let's make sure Everything around the outside here is closed off. It looks like it is. Perfect. We should be able to get him out of the minecart now, and he will be prepared to be a farmer for the rest of his days. Oh, there we go. Okay, we've trampled a couple of the crops, but that's fine. I can hoe those back down, and we should be able to replant, and this guy will probably start replanting for us if we want him to. Right now, I think he's just keen to trade some carrots, but if we leave him to his own devices, he will start to till this field like it is his own. Of course, during the work day, and the rest of the time, he is going to want to try and rest, so hopefully we should have this set up so that he can't actually access any of the beds over here, and if he does, that's going to be a problem, and we'll need to reset the farm and figure out something else that's going to go on here. But hopefully now we should be able to redirect this rail and get the other two villagers into the breeding section of this setup before night falls and they are forced to pick their beds. And what I think I'll need to do is put down some temporary blocks around the outside here so that these villagers will be able to get into the beds, and then I can break those out just to make sure that they don't end up down there, because getting them out of there once they are at the bottom of the pit. Oh, okay, right. So the farmer is able to get there. Interesting. How are we going to resolve that? We will need to make sure that we can stop him from coming through this area and immediately getting into one of the beds. But yeah, this is going to be a little tough here. I think we might have to remove him from this bed and try and get him out somehow. Because if I'm right about the way this guy is going to behave, he's going to want to try and pathfind back into the farm to head to the composter. If I remove this trapdoor here and put a block somewhere around there, maybe we'll have to remove this bed, actually, thinking about it. How about there? Yeah, okay, so he should now be able to pathfind his way back into the center of the farm and mess with the composter, which is what he's going to want to do in the daytime. Let's maybe try and block him from getting anywhere else by putting some stone blocks around the outside here, just so he doesn't try and leave the villager breeder entirely. And once the sun gets to a certain height and the workday starts, we should see him pathfind back to this composter. Yes, perfect. Okay, there we go. And yeah, for whatever reason, Impulse mentioned in his video that this was a bit of a problem, and he said putting a trapdoor there was something that you could do to prevent it from happening, but I think maybe if we put a trapdoor there, hopefully he'll still be able to see these other villagers who are in here. If he doesn't, we might have to try something different, but for now we should at least get the villagers in here so that they can breed, and we'll figure out what to do next after that. And there we go. Oh, looks like we've stacked him on top of the other one. Never mind. Let's quickly get F3 and B and take out that minecart. The other one should fall down here as well. And now we have to wait for night to fall again, because these two will need to pick their beds. Now, in case it wasn't clear, you will want to make sure that there aren't any other beds around here that these villagers could potentially try and pathfind to, because A, that's just going to confuse them, and B, it could potentially mess with the amount of villagers they think they need to produce inside of this breeder. Likewise, it's going to be best to move all of this stuff away from anywhere that you plan to have villagers permanently, because if those villagers claim these beds as their own, and they have quite a wide radius in which they can do so, then it's going to mean these villagers in here will think those beds are already claimed, and that's what prevents them from breeding more villagers. If there are empty beds nearby, then they will always think that that is a bed they need to fill by producing a baby villager and thereby creating this infinite villager breeder scenario. But thankfully, the fence post in there is small enough that a baby villager will actually just fall straight through into this area that we've dug out below. It looks like the workday has ended and the farmer here is trying to socialize. This is the point at which he would be throwing carrots to these other villagers if they were in the central space here. And that's why the range of this farm is actually really important. They kind of need to be standing in that space for the farmer to feel like he can throw some stuff to them. And I'm really hoping that that trapdoor is now going to prevent him from standing on one of the beds, or at least pathfinding to the bed and being able to get in it, because that's really going to cause problems for the farm otherwise. Nope, it looks like the farmer was able to get out of the farm. Okay, well, some people have mentioned that one of the ways to prevent this is to make sure that your two breeding villagers are the ones who occupy the beds closest to the farm. That way the farmer tries to pathfind to one of the other beds and he can't. So maybe we might have to make you the farmer instead. Maybe that might have to be the way we end up doing this, because we really want to make sure that the farmer stays in here and doesn't try and get out to any of these beds. So maybe time for a quick profession switch. Great, okay, we've got him on the cart here. Let's see if we can get him up the ramp. Just place a redstone block somewhere nearby. Yep, there we go. And up you go, friend. Up you go into the farm. That's right. Perfect. Okay. So now these two are sleeping safely in their beds, or at least they would be if this guy wasn't leaping up and down all of the time. Thankfully, much like other mobs, villagers don't like to pathfind over rails, so we can probably control his movement a little bit that way. But we want a bed there, and we want another bed where he is currently standing. There we go. Okay, I think that's probably as good as we're going to get here. So let's try our best to remove the rest of these blocks while we still can. And hopefully, because these villagers' professions haven't been locked in at this point, we haven't traded with either of them, that farmer is going to forget he's a farmer in the morning, and this guy inside the farm boundary is going to be a farmer when he wakes up. And now, yep, it looks like he cannot get to any of these beds because the two beds in front there have been claimed, and he's trying to pathfind to one of the ones behind there. Hopefully they should remember which beds are theirs, and we shouldn't continue to have that problem. Otherwise, we might have to look at some other measures that we can take to prevent him from getting to those beds, because once they're within like a block and a half of the bed, it seems like they can get to it pretty easily. So I'm going to put down my bed now, and it's time to get some sleep because the creepers are starting to close in. Good morning. It is workplace reassignment day for you guys. I might have to actually put something over the top here to make sure that the farmer forgets he is a farmer. We can probably close the farm in temporarily because it looks like that guy is going to go and wander over there. And eventually, this guy's actually tossing carrots to his friend here, and that kind of implies that they are trying to breed. We haven't got a baby villager just yet, haven't seen any heart particles either, but if they share enough carrots between the two of them and they have an adequate supply of food in their inventories, that's what causes breeding in this update. I am going to hop in here really quickly and block this off completely. Hopefully that should encourage this guy here to forget that he is a farmer. I also broken the workstation and replaced it, so it looks like this guy has decided he's going to be a farmer now, which is perfect. And that guy is still a farmer, but nope, he looks like he just lost his hat. Great, okay. So now if we farm this like so and get out of the farmland here, let's toss our remaining carrots to this guy. And hopefully if we reinstate the trapdoors over here, that should mean that this guy doesn't try and pathfind to that bed anymore. And let's start this off by tossing some carrots to these folks here. Hopefully that should have landed in there for them, but if not, they might have actually gone down into the hopper down here. There we go. Yeah, we actually did throw a bunch of the carrots through the fence post into the hopper, but hopefully that means that these villagers don't need to collect any more carrots and they've got enough already. It's also worth remembering that villagers will only try to breed at meeting times. They will pass the crops back and forth to each other when they don't have anything else to do, but the meeting time of day is at the beginning and end of the day. So right now, during the work period, they're just kind of idle and they won't be producing any baby villagers until a little bit later. And I suppose that's another small victory for us. Even though we don't have a baby villager yet, that farmer there has not been able to pathfind to either of the beds. So it looks like the bed setup here is going to be perfectly fine. We should just be able to skip through the night and maybe they will have a shot at breeding in the morning. I think they might have to have had a successful night's sleep and a day's worth of trading food before they will start to produce babies. So in that case, it might just take a little bit of time here. Yep, there we go. We've got heart particles coming up, although it looks like they are trying to meet with the farmer, but maybe the two of these will actually get together in a second because they are the ones that can make contact with each other, and hopefully in a short amount of time we should see some baby villagers popping into here as well. I think we are far enough away from the rest of my villagers that they don't think there is an additional villager population here, but I am planning on taking down the old villager breeder that we have over there just to make sure that that isn't interfering with this operation in any way. I'm fairly certain it is far enough away from the trading hall though. Let's see if we have a baby villager yet. Nope, doesn't look like it. I think this villager and that villager might be trying to... Yeah, I think they're actually not able to pathfind to each other, and that's what's causing the problem here. Well, sooner or later, they're going to figure out that these two villagers in here are the ones that are made for each other. They're the ones who are supposed to be making the babies to begin with, and unfortunately, this farmer is going to have to continue farming the crops. Okay, this time I've actually opened that trapdoor, and it seems like that is working out for the farmer chucking the crops to these villagers. And the main reason I wanted to check that that was working was so that we could make sure the crops ended up in the hopper down here, and it looks like none of them have come through yet, which hopefully means that those villagers are trying to take on more carrots so that they can try and breed. But yeah, if any of the crops end up falling through this fence post here, they will end up going into the hopper, which means basically this thing becomes a passive carrot farm. But it really looks like that farmer and that guy are trying to breed, which might be a bit of a problem here. Well, somehow we still don't have any baby villagers out of this thing. I have seen it working in a creative test world as well, but we do have some carrots in the chest here, which is making me believe that maybe one of the villagers that I've decided should be the breeding pair in here doesn't have enough carrots. So I'm going to try just dishing out as many carrots as I can to them while the farmer villager is away. I'll try and throw them in from the side there. Nope, looks like those are going down into the hopper again. So let's try and feed these to the villagers from the side here so that they get them straight into their inventory and we don't have to worry about one of them being too hungry for the other one. They have been sharing the food around though, so this is honestly a bit of a mystery. I think we might even have to reset some of the beds while they're all standing in the middle here. That was another solution somebody suggested could potentially be causing the two in the middle to not breed. Yes! Oh, we got one! Finally! I didn't even quite manage to catch it on camera, but we got those heart particles, and we have ourselves a brand new baby villager in here. And to be honest, I'm not sure who the father is. We might have to do some kind of paternity test. I cannot tell if it was actually the farmer somehow making contact, because I only saw heart particles from the farmer, not from these two in the middle, but either way, if it works, it works. We have a baby villager at long last, and I honestly think it was just a matter of repositioning those beds and making sure that these two had enough carrots, because for whatever reason, the beds weren't working before, and now it seems like they are. So we can set up a water stream to carry this baby villager down into the area that I'm going to make into the town, and what I would love to do is build up another 3 of these farm areas around the perimeter of this so that we actually have 2 carrot farms and 2 potato farms all being fed into this one area. I think we should even have, yeah, there we go, a stack and a half of carrots in here as well. That is not bad at all. So there we go, folks. That is a kind of successful 1.14 villager breeder. A little bit quirky, but it works, and I'm really, really happy with it. Thanks again to Impulse SV for a brilliant tutorial. That will be linked in the description and in the iCards, of course. But for now, that is going to be it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.